Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for tuning in for this third episode of Pachpowi Talks. Today, I will be sharing a story about how the heck I, an ex data professional with no prior art experience nor any art school, anything like this, how the heck did I end up in the middle of Atlantic Ocean on a little island, and how did I painted a mural at school? It's quite a story. I love it because it's so much about actually listening to your intuition, doing the small steps on the daily basis, and how really like things can unravel in the crazy way. So let me start from the beginning. I guess the context I want to set this whole story in is that, I've been on this path of let's call it like self-discovery, self-development, growth, evolution, however you want to call it, for a few years already. And I always struggled with when I'm reading a book, listening to podcasts about, I don't know, how to manifest your dream reality, or like uncovering your limiting beliefs. I get super high, but also then it's the tricky part, where no one tells you this, how to actually put it into like actionable steps, right? Like, okay, now I see, I understand, like the universe, world is mental, it's all like constructs of my thoughts that are creating the world around me, but like how to break out of it. And I feel like, of course, like listening to all those podcasts, listening all those books, I love it. And sometimes, yes, it makes it click, but in a way, they are kind of high level, right? Like it's high level of abstraction because they are sharing this to the world, right? To millions of people that live such different lives, have such different circumstances. So, of course, it won't be like, hey, you, Agatha, you need to do this exact thing at this day, Like it doesn't work like this. So, okay, that's the context, right? I always struggled with it. But I've been really on a quest of listening deep down to those little hunches of what to do, That this day you just feel like, oh, that might be cool without overly like thinking, analyzing what does it mean for the future. So long story short, during my 100 days challenge where I was illustrating the book was called The Zen Art of Simple Living. One of my favorite designs, favorite, actually appeared when the day, I think it was like maybe 30th drawing. And I remember I read the chapter, it was about do not fear change. And I was like, maybe I should, quote unquote, a great, red flag word if you hear it in your mind. But I was like, maybe I should draw like, I don't know, like a cherry blossoming tree or something because like it's Japanese theme, etc. But it was really not vibing. I remember I was sketching this morning and I was like, no, I really don't like it. I don't know. It's boring. I was like, wow, I'm really forcing myself to do this. And I asked myself very powerful question. What would I actually want to draw? And apparently that day specifically, I was like, you know what? I would just love to draw Scooby-Doo. I don't know. I just felt like it. There's something in me that I have so many memories of watching all those cartoons and I just love them. I just love them and they have very special place in my heart. And I was like, okay, let's just play with it. Long story short, just because I asked myself this question, what is something I would actually want to do? I created one of my favorite designs where I brought all of the characters from the Scooby-Doo crew that were transformed. It was perfect because the title was Do Not Fear Change, and I like the center piece of the drawing was Scooby-Doo cross-legged meditating. Shaggy was standing next to him with some Tibetan balls and Freddy was, playing on the drums and Velma was doing some yoga. Like it was like such a combination for me of my two very dear to me words, which I feel like actually have a lot of overlap in many areas. I won't get into that today, but I guess I'm really passionate about bringing this whole like spiritual, whatever you want to call it, like actually the work, right? The work that you're doing inside with this playfulness. And also I love the concept that, we all used to watch those cartoons and you really cannot fear the fact that you will grow up. That Scooby-Doo one day might be like, I want to meditate instead of doing this or that. I don't know. Anyway, I created this design, which actually was the first design for my Pachpowi brand, clothing brand. Let's fast forward. So after 2 or 3 months, it was a time that I came back to Krakow, to my apartment. I was really trying to change my mindset around how do I feel about even being here. I don't know if many of you can relate, but for me, like, this is the town that I grew up with, grew up in, and definitely it's where it's so easy to slip back into the old ways of thinking, of very limited reality, of what's possible, what's for me, how my day look like, etc. But I was at the point that I was really like shifting it. You know what? I already quit my job. I was continuing my project and I was like, okay, I will just shift my perspective and I will treat my apartment as a studio. I guess this is one of the things you realize after traveling full time, that you're renting an Airbnb, you're staying in a hostel, in the co-living, that you don't have ownership over what goes onto the wall. You don't even have space, like, mentally to think about this, right? Like, it's there. So I was really trying to kind of alchemize maybe the place that was kind of bringing up a lot of heavy stuff for me into something beautiful. And that being said, one day I was like, you know what? I have like a tiny balcony here that has like, it's all white and it has like 2 walls, like each on one side of it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe it would be so cool to have this Scooby-Doo design on my wall. How cool would that be? And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And at this point, literally nothing else was driving me but the pure fun and joy of doing this. That I'm like, this is cool. I love this design. I want it on my wall. I want to do it. So I started researching, okay, what comes into actually like putting like any painting on the wall, that like I didn't really know how to do it, let's quote unquote properly. I mean, I wanted this to look nicely. How do I put the design on the wall? So I did a little bit of research. I found out the easiest way to do it is to just have a projector, of course. So I use this website where you can just like order tech just for a short period of time. So you're just renting, and I think I ordered it for like a month or so. And I just sketched it out, put it on the wall with just a pencil. And then I was, of course, just feeling and painting. And I was like, after a few days, because I was really taking my time, it was summer in Krakow, so it was really nice outside. I was just drinking my coffees and my matcha on my balcony, like painting for an hour, 2 hours later. So I wasn't really rushing. And wow, after a few days, I was like, oh my God, my design is on the wall. Like, and it looks epic. I love it. And I don't know, even now, like, I can see it. Wait, like, I can almost see it from where I'm sitting right now. And I don't know, it just put the biggest smile on my face. And I realized, wow, how powerful also this is, because it's subconsciously kind of programming you, right? Like, you can have different, like, words and sentences and messages around you that you are not aware, and majority of the time we cannot control them because it's the world that surrounds us. And I was just like, wow, I actually put something that represents like such a like perspective on reality, on inner growth, on change, and is combining this like spiritual inner growth area with this playfulness and this kind of nostalgic feeling of when I was a kid. And it's such a beautiful metaphor, because in a way, like, when you are a kid, like, you still are so fresh, you have not absorbed all of the limitations of what world later puts on you, what's possible, and you just do what's fun. Like, you're not like, oh, what are my goals for the next year, what do I want to do till I turn 9 years old? No, you're just having fun, right? You're not analyzing the time, like you're just so playful. Yeah, okay, anyway, so I was just like so happy with this design on the wall. Yes, let's put a dot here. And then I was still in Krakow. I already had some travels planned ahead. I think it was before Iceland, before I went to Sicily, and I was like just happy with what appeared. Then fast forward to when I came back from Iceland. So a month ago, I still had a little pit stop of few days in Krakow. And I was really feeling like, it was time for me to like plan what's ahead, because in this like kind of space where you are facing so many unknowns, you don't really know where you live, where you want to be, like you don't have the job that keeps you anywhere. It's beautiful, so much freedom, but it's also so much responsibility because you need to decide everything for yourself, right? No one will come to you and say go there or that. That's like, I would say that's the shadow side maybe of freedom. That there's no one else, nothing else that you can kind of blame on it, if the life is different than what you wanted because you're making decisions, right? So I remember after Iceland, I was still very much practicing, and I'm still am, to make decisions out of love, not out of fear. And especially with planning travels, let me tell you, my brain, like, when it feels a slightest bit of discomfort in here and now, it already jumps ahead to planning. Okay, but in a month I will be there. In 2 months I will do this. It's such a trap, especially if you can relate to like kind of this nomadic lifestyle, let's say. It's really a thin line. When is the time to actually decide, or am I just distracting myself from whatever is in front of me? But at the time, I was feeling very aligned. I was like, okay, I have some plans still ahead till, let's say, October, but I want to kind of put an intention moving forward. And after Iceland, I knew that I really want to kind of go back to like some consistent activity. And for me, I realized, whoa, what about I just decide to run a half marathon? Finally, I had many attempts in my life already. I was signed up to run, but it never happened. And I was like, okay, that sounds perfect. So literally, I remember it all happened. It's crazy, but it all happened in a span of 1 hour, of thinking, okay, I could run a half marathon. And I opened a website that had like all of those running events all over Europe and all over the world. And I saw it. Oh my God, this is perfect. A half marathon that is in 3 months. So it gives me a little bit of time to kind of prepare to actually be able to run it. And it's in Lanzarote, which is one of the Spanish Canary Islands. And it's called an island of 1,000 volcanoes. And I was, I'm so hyped about volcanoes. That's why also Iceland has such a big place in my heart and other places. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. So I just booked it, I was like, okay, I'm going to run there December. And I think that was set. So I knew after my travels, after the Sicily, and then I knew I was going to Portugal, I knew, okay, I'm flying to Canary Islands. This is perfect. This is where I will spend my winter, because I was also internally feeling, wow, this is really the time to slow down. I've been like changing places so many times and so often. And as beautiful as it is, if you're doing this full time, like it kind of gets decision fatigue is real, and you don't really have any space to create, to grow, because you're constantly, okay, I need to book, what's next. So I was like really excited about this. Then let's fast forward. So far, I only have the half marathon booked. I knew, okay, I'm going there after Portugal, whenever the dates will align, and let's see, right? So actually, 2 months later, I'm in Portugal with my dear friend. And I was really navigating, wow, okay, my half marathon is like in 6 weeks or so. I already have some accommodations booked before that and a little bit after that, but like it's going to be Christmas time, right? And New Year's. And there was definitely a decision to be made. Do I want to go back home to spend the Christmas with my family? Which, is just like tradition for us to just spend time together, right? It used to be like super, super huge for our family. Now maybe a little bit less, but I still knew it's important for my parents. But I felt like, you know what? No, like this year I want to just prioritize and just like do what feels aligned for me. And I knew that it might mean missing the holidays time with my family, but I was okay with that. And I was trying to, okay, let's think, how can I stay longer in Canary Islands and hopefully also don't spend that much? Because, I think I found out, oh, okay, December, January, etc. It's like kind of the highest season you could imagine in Canary Islands because almost all the Europe is cold and miserable, and Canary Islands are beautiful. It's so warm, it's like summer. And I don't know if you know about this app. It's called Trusted House Sitters. If you're a traveler, a nomad, or you just want to experience it, it's amazing. The app works like this: a person that has a pet, a cat, a dog, a horse, a sheep. Like really, there are many, many different offers, but of course, majority of people have cats and dogs. When they are going away, they need someone to come to kind of take care of their animal, right? They don't want to like go through struggle of like transporting with the cat or a dog. And in exchange, you get to stay there for free, because you get to take care of someone's loved furry ball. So I was like, this would be so epic if I found a cat seat, especially cat seat because, it gives you a little bit more freedom in Lanzarote, right? The island that I was going. And I was really, trying to surrender because, in my brain it was like, oh my God, I need to book already. Like I'm flying in I think I already knew I'm flying from the mainland, let's say in a week or so, or like 10 days. Like I felt like, oh my God, time is kind of running out. But I was like really coming back to intention. Okay, let me just release. And little did I know that I would find the most amazing cat seat ever. That was literally 20 minutes from the ocean, and it was just beautiful place, and I could stay there for 2 weeks, and or like 2.5 weeks, and I was just the happiest person ever. Anyway, that was what happened. And now let's fast forward till I was already in Lanzarote. Because, okay, it's still a story about the Mural, okay. But I just want to really highlight how many moments of trusting the intuition, the releasing of I need to know straight away, actually led to this beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm in Lanzarote, and the person that I would cat sit for is this Steffi girl, and we decided to meet up. And it was such an amazing interaction we had, it was really amazing to be able to meet her before. She's a teacher, and we just started talking about so many different things. And she said that she's actually teaching kids emotional intelligence, which I was like, what the heck? This is the coolest thing ever. And we just started exchanging, the projects we were both passionate about, and it was just beautiful. After that, when I actually started the cat seat, I was staying there after all for a month. And I remember this one day, we really started exchanging some messages with Steffi about, what could we do together? It would be so cool. I also shared with her the project I did in Lanzarote, in Fuerteventura, with the posters about the emotions that were illustrated, and the poster had those little takeaway cards, if you're feeling, I don't know, anger, and you could take a card for you, take 3 breaths, meditate for 5 minutes, call your mom, text a friend, etc. Right? So I don't know, you could feel there was so much creative energy flowing back and forth. It was absolutely beautiful. And probably this is the highlight of this whole story. One day, we were exchanging some messages, and I don't know how, but it came to me, wow, how cool would it be if we did a mural at the school for the kids to see, for the teachers to see, something that would be really aligned. And Steffi, as Steffi is the most creative, inspiring person with such passion for what she's doing, she was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, whoa, so that's happening. So when she came back, we actually were still talking about this, and I was like, whoa, this is actually happening. So what is the design, etc., etc. And actually, this is how we started creating the project at school. And I was like so many times in what I was like in such disbelief. I was like, how the heck did it happen that like 6 months ago I was still like working on data pipelines coding, and now I'm prepared to paint a mural? I was like, I don't know what's happening. What is happening? And the mural process was absolutely amazing and beautiful. But what I want to focus on in this moment, because during exchanging those messages, a very important thing happened. When I said, what about if we do a mural? This wasn't coming out of nowhere, right? Like, I would never assume that this is something I could do. But this little act few months ago, when I painted, like, I don't know, it's like 1 meter, like 1 meter square at my balcony, the Scooby-Doo one. This is actually what gave me confidence to even speak it out loud, that this is what I can do, you know? It's actually freaking mind-blowing when you think about this, because sometimes it feels, when I tell you about like this grand manifestation and vision boards and this and that, what I want to do, but I would never assume that this little step that I've done few months before that was actually something that will be a quantum jump in my head, that whoa, I can paint on walls in a way that I can put a design on a wall. I know how to do it. So I know it sounds, I think it's all in the small things that maybe often we do not realize that this is actually the biggest shift ever. That wow, the act of really following your little hunch can lead you to something so grand and beautiful. Because in the end, the mural at school was again connecting what I loved about the Scooby-Doo. We've decided to go with the design with the Pixar characters from the Inside Out movie, all of the emotions, which was connected to what Steffi was teaching and doing, and also saw the potential in it. And the message was something along the way, I don't remember exactly because we translated it into Spanish, of course, was like that emotions are your compass and that you need to just trust them, feel them, and let them flow. And it was absolutely mind-blowing to see the ripple effect already that was happening, because all of the kids, there were so many kids and teachers always passing, but almost every kid was like starting to talk about the emotions they saw. And of course, it can be something super small when you think on day to day, but for me, when I remember, I'm sorry, but I found out that emotions exist like maybe 4 years ago, like before, especially like with my upbringing and how like life looked like for me with my parents and other people I was surrounded with. Like, emotions are not a subject you talk about, like, at all. They don't even exist. You don't even name them. You have no kind of even understanding of what's happening in your body. Like, you're just feeling stuff, So I don't know. For me, there was something so beautiful. And again, it's such a combination of you following your own steps and you doing the thing that you would never expect. I would never assume that the fact that I'm putting a Scooby-Doo on my freaking wall will lead me to finishing, maybe not a huge, but it was like 2 or 3 meters by 4 meters in a school middle of Atlantic Ocean. Like, I would never assume that. So This is such a lesson for me, and maybe you can relate to this as well, that sometimes really you cannot kind of backward engineer. Maybe we just need to kind of trust a little bit more what you feel like doing today that is kind of new but exciting. And it can be super small because you never know how it will translate to your experiences moving forward. It was absolutely mind blowing. And of course, it's always like, I like to say it's like 100% responsibility on both sides. But like Steffi, I mean, she's I cannot even put it into words. She's such a passionate, devoted, inspiring, open minded, and just like amazing person that now I'm so happy to call my friend. And of course, it all happened because of her. That she was so open for us to collaborate and basically saying yes to anything that came to me. She offered me such trust and the opportunity to do it, and it was beautiful. But the point is that you need to be ready for your timing with the people you're meant to create something beautiful. Because if I did not take this step of putting a mural on my wall in my balcony where no one is going to see it apart of me because it's in my apartment, like it would never lead me to sharing with the person that is like, like you just put like a little match, you put like start match and have like a little flame, and the other person is like a flamethrower on top of that. But you need to be ready. You need to have your own spark that is ready to spread. And I'm just so grateful for how it all unraveled. And the second part of it, of course, one, it was taking action, right? Like that I just followed my intuition a few months before, and I didn't have any expectations that now I need to do this. I think this is such a brilliant example of truly surrendering. Maybe sounds like you're giving up, maybe, or not putting the effort, but no, I feel like surrendering like to the simple joy in life. Like imagine as you were a kid, you just surrendered to whatever was fun for you and you just followed it without thinking, will I make money from it? Is it a career? Oh, but I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to edit. No, if you like taking pictures, you're just like, please, whoever has a camera, to give you the camera, and so you can just shoot some film. I don't know. It's really, really beautiful if you go back to this amazing kid-like permission, actually. Because I feel like we are, in majority of cases, like the first person that stands on our way. And I'm not saying, okay, if you give yourself permission, everything is smooth, but like if you don't give yourself permission, like no matter even if the whole world would give you one, like it still won't going to move at all. So it's such a combination of listening to your intuition, surrendering, and then voicing it. Of course, here it's once again I have infinite gratitude to Steffi for creating such space where I could share so freely, right? Whatever came to my mind. But also, you need to say what you can do. And this is huge. Actually, when you think about this, you need to start telling to the world what you are capable of. And what you are capable of, this is what you build through these small, tiny actions. So, of course, I've never before created full on mural with like so many colors and like more complex design in a public space. But I already kind of had a blueprint of what's necessary for putting the design on the wall. Actually, this brings me back to another point, that it's all about processes in our life. I'm such a process geek, and I just love this part of my job, that it's like I really could dig deeper and understand like the whole systems and process. But I feel like we could all, no matter what's your career, what you do in life, we could all use a little bit of process thinking, because then you can catch up to your brain where it's actually throwing like an error. What's actually the problem? Because actually, I feel like at least I'm talking about my mind and how it works for me. Sometimes I'm thinking about doing like step 1, which actually it's step 10 or even further, or like output of a step 10, and I get overwhelmed, and then I get just frozen and I don't do anything, right? I mean, for me, this is such a life scenario. It happens so many times. But I think there's such a beauty in kind of breaking it down, create a little bit of separation between what your mind is telling you and just put it somewhere else, put it on the piece of paper, write it down, and actually ask yourself, is it true? But anyway, coming back to the process, right? So you might feel like, I don't know. For example, you would love to create an amazing movie, to produce like something that literally, I don't know, could go to film festivals and win awards. So I can imagine if you've never done it, right? Or like you are doing totally something different, it can kind of feel overwhelming, right? And it can feel like, oh, but I cannot do that. I don't know anything. Let me not do this. But when you break it down, what about I do like a short movie, like a 1 minute? And the point is that the process is something that you can take and you can scale it up. So as with Mural, here I already knew what comes, like basically I knew what's the technology that allows me to put the design on the wall, right? I knew what are the stages of painting and what's something important to keep in mind, right? A part of this, of course, there were thousands of unknowns, right? But this simple experiential, I wanted to say experience. So maybe just the experience of going through this little process of painting on my freaking balcony allowed me to scale up. So it wasn't so much, oh, you need to have an experience, so you need to actually do the same, like already done the same, right? To be able to replicate. I mean, no, that's the secret. That's how you scale, right? You start small, you understand the process, you move further, you have still core of the process, you will learn more things, but it's not like you're jumping into just vast ocean without knowing anything. You're already, okay, I have this my little boat, maybe it's sinking on the side a little bit, but I kind of know how to get from point A to B, right? Now I'm going from B to D, so it's kind of scarier, longer, but I have like a little bit of experience. I can predict a little bit, and 30% is unknown, but I trust myself that I will figure it out. And maybe that will be my last point. Trust yourself that you will figure it out. Wow. To be honest, probably this is the biggest, I want to say life skill, but actually just like a belief, like literally a thought you have in your brain, right? When things happen. Trust yourself, you will figure it out. Because again, being in the overthinking, overwhelm, frozen state, for me, it feels absolutely terrible. Like, just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But when I will say this to myself, that, you know what? I don't know. And if you're okay with saying that I don't know, but I have trust that I will figure it out, and it doesn't always mean you will figure it out on your own, but you figuring it out can as well mean that you will reach out to friend, to ask, to an expert, to whoever else that will have the necessary knowledge or skills that they will be willing to share with you. So this is so just powerful thought to have. Oh, that being said, thank you so much for listening. It was, for me, the greatest example of this whole process of like doing small steps. So actually we have three things, right? Just trust your intuition in today. Because I feel like sometimes it feels like intuition is this grand thing that leads me that I suddenly know what to do in like 6 months. No, like intuition is today, like that you don't really know, it doesn't really make sense, you've never done it, or you just feel like doing this and you're actually doing it. Second is once again kind of surrendering to the flow of the events and trusting and trusting and trusting and voicing what you can do and trusting yourself that you will figure it out. Wow. The last thing I wanted to add is that, for example, this podcast is another project for me like this. Have I ever done podcast? Never. I have no idea what comes into the process of creating it and to make it actually valuable for people to listen. But it's just something that sounded fun. So I'm trusting this is another Scooby Doo design that I don't know where it will lead. Maybe I have some intentions, but I'm surrendering in the way. And I just focus on today. That today I just felt like recording. So let it be your invitation. I'm sure that for listening, you already had some thoughts come to you, some ideas that, those small things, that always linger in your head. Oh, that would be cool. But for some reason, you're not doing it. So give yourself permission just to try, just to play, just to see how it feels to do it. Okay, ending here. This is maybe just like an outro. This is such an experiment for me. I have no idea yet what is the formula that works. Today, I feel like it was a little bit of sharing, let's say, the traveling experience and also some insights. And it's interesting because before I sat down, I was like, okay, I will prepare an agenda, or maybe I will have some questions. But to be honest, so far probably this is not the most structured content you could hear out there, but it's also because I guess it just so authentic and raw. Like, I don't follow any agenda. I just treat it as if I was sitting down with a friend and sharing story and insights that hopefully help some of you, inspire some of you, or like you will just see something in your reality differently. So I really appreciate your time. I guess I will see you in the next one. That being said, have a beautiful, beautiful day and bye.